How close can you get to a Rolex without buying a Rolex? Well, today we're going to be testing that out as I take a look at the Ginault Ocean Rover. Across the internet, I've seen this watch referred to as the best homage to a Rolex or a super homage. If you're not familiar with what that is, then essentially this takes all its design cues from a Rolex, in this case specifically the Military Submariner, also known as the Milsub, and it attempts to offer that sort of aesthetic at the fraction of the cost of buying a real one. With this Ginault being quite a high-end homage, coming in at a price of just over £1,000, which is actually a fraction of the cost of going out and trying to buy a real Rolex Milsub, where you're talking tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. That being said, a watch at this sort of price isn't normally what I cover on this channel. I am no luxury watch expert. I tend to focus on more low-end watches that most people can afford. However, there's two reasons I wanted to get this on the channel. The first one is the transparency from the brand, whose emails were quite refreshing, and they said stuff like this: hold it in your hands and share it with your viewers your honest opinion, and as you mentioned, the review should be honest and organic. We will never ask for a favourable review if our reviewers felt otherwise. In fact, if you think the watch is crap, just say it is, no need to sugarcoat it. And getting an email like that from a brand is surprisingly rare when you're doing this sort of thing on YouTube. Loads of brands will attempt to script you in reviews, which I think is ridiculous. So it's pretty cool to see that sort of approach from a brand. And I thought it would be interesting to see what you get from a watch at this sort of price, because this is pretty new territory for me. I couldn't afford to buy something like this myself. So the brand have sent me the watch for a review. They haven't paid me any money for this review, and at the time of recording this video, at least, they haven't given me any affiliate code or anything like that. It's up to you to make your own mind up about if that's influenced my opinion, but I'm going to try and keep this as honest as possible. First things first, the watch arrived in this really nice box. I can't tell if the coating is real leather or not, but overall feels great and substantial, and it has a velvet lining inside. Comes with a little extra tool as well. It includes an extra strap and a cleaning cloth, as well as a pretty cool movement accuracy report. So overall, the packaging, that was a good start, but let's get into the watch. The model I've got here is the Ginault 181875 with the date complication. I'll whiz through some of the specs and then I'll get into my opinions of the watch. This one comes with flat sapphire crystal with a cyclops, an aluminium insert blue bezel with a golden index, which is unidirectional and 120 click. The watch features gold sand loom, as they call it, and is constructed using 316L stainless steel. It contains the Ginault 7275 movement, which we'll talk about later, and it has 300 meters of water resistance. The watch is apparently hand-built in America, and this comes in at a cost of $1,499 US. Although you can sometimes apparently find discount codes for these watches. Let's talk size first of all. This watch comes in at 40mm in diameter, not including the crown, and this version has a depth of 12.5mm or 13.5mm including the cyclops, and it has a lug-to-lug size of just over 47mm. What does all that mean? It means that this watch has great size and proportions for loads of guys. This will work with a variety of wrist sizes, and it's one of the reasons why this design as a whole is so popular. I've got skinny 6¼ inch wrists, and even on my wrists, I would say it looks pretty decent. In an ideal world for my wrists, I wish it was maybe a 38mm, but I think for most of you watching this video, this size is going to be great. I also think loads of you will be comfortable with the bracelet, which features a fantastic glide lock style clasp, which I believe is taken from one of the more recent Rolex watches, and Ginault have done a really good job of replicating this, as this one performs really nicely. Essentially, you unclip the end, and then you can quickly adjust the length of the bracelet, and this is definitely the best type of bracelet I've come across, and it makes the watch very comfortable, and you can always expand this slightly if you need to later in the day. The links themselves are all solid steel, and they feel great quality without feeling too heavy. Overall, I can tell straight away that this is great quality. Whether it's as good as a Rolex, I'm not sure. But the brushing and polishing on this section, as well as the case, which we'll get into in a minute, it's all very well done. And the case itself really falls in line with that. The polishing, once more, is very accurate, and what I would expect from a watch at this sort of price, which does leave the watch looking very premium. It does have a basic screw-down case back, which, whilst is accurate to one of the Rolex models, I just find this a bit boring. It is quite plain, but it does contribute towards this having 300 meters of water resistance, which is obviously great if you actually wanted to go swimming in this. To go along with that, the crown is also screw down, And I really like this. I think it's really grippy, very easy to use, but it's not too loose or anything like that. You can use this to set the date and time and such. And it has the Ginault logo on as well. Initially, I had a bit of trouble with the bezel as I found it to be very difficult to turn at first. I don't know whether this was just my watch or this is how they're supposed to be, but after a couple of months it did start to loosen up a bit more, and now it does feel great to turn, very satisfying to use. I initially thought that the grip on the bezel wasn't good enough. However, now that it's loosened up a bit, I find that level of grip to be perfectly adequate. And the colour choice here for this model in particular is fantastic, which we'll talk about in the design section. There's definitely been some controversy about the movement used inside this watch. This is an automatic movement which is labelled as a Ginault 7275. However, many people suspect this to just be a clone of an ETA movement, which is automatic, it hacks and hand winds and all that stuff if you're bothered about that. Personally, when it comes to watches, I'm not really someone that cares too much about what movement is technically inside the watch, as long as functionally it performs well, and it has done for me. If you want to see detailed stats about the accuracy of this movement over certain time periods, then there are many channels that you can view that on. Next, let's have a look at the glass itself. Now, this glass is sapphire, which you would hope and expect at this price. That means it's going to be very resistant against scratches. You will notice that this does reflect the light quite a lot. And I think that's because this watch hasn't been treated with any sort of anti-reflective coating. I'm pretty sure I remember them saying that this was some sort of design choice to be more accurate towards what a retro Rolex would have been like. However, for this model with the Cyclops, it's only really resulted in the Cyclops becoming almost unreadable at times. It reflects the light so badly that I would go as far as to say I would not recommend going for this version of the watch. I would personally recommend the no-date version, which also comes with a domed crystal. Now, obviously, if you're going to get a watch, you've got to like how it looks. Now, the design of this Ginault is far from original. It's not really unique, but it is proven. I think they've done a great job with this one. The design, again, a bit like the overall theme of the watch, is kind of like a greatest hits of Rolex. So you'll see hints of various types of them inside this watch. My favorite parts are the indices. I think they really stand out. That gold sands color looks great, and the depth to them as well. They look super high quality. I think that the hands as well are a really nice choice and go along with the theme that this is going for. And to be fair, aesthetically, I think this looks as good as a Rolex. Aside from obviously the fact that it doesn't have Rolex on the dial. There are a couple of nitpicks that I've got with this one. The main one being the amount of text on the bottom half of the dial. They've seemingly got a whole paragraph beneath here. I would have just preferred maybe 2 lines, and that would have killed it for me. And whilst I do love the colour and the design of the bezel, I find it to be an absolute fingerprint magnet. The most of any watch that I've probably reviewed on my channel. If you plan on using this watch in the dark, the lume is fantastic. My terrible lume shot here probably doesn't do it justice. I struggled to get the area dark enough, but it really stands out, and you'll easily be able to tell the time. So overall, from my perspective as someone that mainly covers more budget watches, it is very clear that this is an exceptionally high quality watch. However, is it worth £1,000? If it were me personally, for this watch, I can maybe justify spending about £600-700. Although I'm sure this performs fantastically well over many years, I think that the fact that this is just a Homage watch, it's obviously not a Rolex, I'm not sure that there'd be that many people that would be willing to spend over £1,000 on a Homage watch that hasn't got an original design. I think if you did buy one of these, it's a great functional diver's watch. It looks great with a variety of outfits, and I would not be surprised at all if this was the best Homage watch that you can buy to a Rolex Submariner, because this is pretty much as good a quality as anything I've seen on anyone's wrist. And I guess if you wanted the mil-sub design specifically, but didn't want to spend the tens or hundreds of thousands to get hold of a real one, this could well be the next best thing. Though I know at that sort of price range, maybe about 2 times more than the cost of this one, you can get some Tudor watches. If I was in the market for a watch at this sort of price that had this sort of design, maybe I'd go for one of them instead. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Could you ever justify spending £1,000 on a watch? Personally, I probably couldn't, but I've heard in the rumour mill that Ginault may be bringing out some of their own exclusive designs. Now, something like that, if they look as good as this one, that might be worth more money. To me, at least. If you like the video, press the like button, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one, boys.